Do you want to know what really boils my blood? It's these scams you hear about from time to time, the ones that target the elderly and the most vulnerable. It's beyond me how people can stoop so low. And in a somewhat similar way, all four of the Gospels make mention of a giant religious scam that in fact took place year after year during the most sacred time on the Jewish calendar in the holiest of all places. Yet what made this scam so different from most was that everyone knew about it. It was an open secret, and yet everyone just accepted it and played along and kept quiet. The reason being was that the clergy and the politicians were all in on it. That was until Jesus came along and called it out for what it really was. Hi everyone, I'm Mark Leeming from the 1 Minute Preacher, where every Thursday I put out short videos just like this one. So at the end of it, please do give it a thumbs up, as it really helps my channel out. Now, this scam, it so enraged Jesus that it was the only time that we know of when he became physically violent. He yelled and he screamed at those involved. He overturned their tables. He even made a makeshift whip and chased them all away. What I'm referring to, of course, was when Jesus chased out of the Jewish temple the money changers and those who were selling animals. When you stop and think about it, that was no small feat. The religious authorities allowed those scammers to operate in a large area of the temple, and unlike the 10 to 20 second clips that you'll see in the movies, it would have required quite a bit of time for Jesus to clear that many people out. And last but certainly not least, for that many people to flee because of just one man, Jesus must have appeared very fearsome that day. So why did he do it? What enraged Jesus so much? Well, here's 4 basic reasons. Well, I filmed the first half of this video last night, and I just got back from the beach today. I bought a new hat. What do you think? My kids certainly don't like it. Anyway, one reason why Jesus was so enraged was the sacredness of the time and place. It occurred during the Jewish Passover, the most important religious event of the entire year. And it took place at the temple in Jerusalem, the holiest site in all of Israel. Unlike the pagan religions, which would have many temples that they could go and worship their gods at, the Jewish people only had one temple, which was in Jerusalem. And so Jews from all across the known world would make a religious pilgrimage to Jerusalem to make atonement for their sins. And since many of those religious pilgrims had to travel great distances, they wouldn't be able to bring their animals that they would use as a sacrifice with them. And so when they got to Jerusalem, they would buy their animals there. However, let's just say that many of those who would sell the animals were about as trustworthy as our modern day used car salesman. And thirdly, in order to buy those animals and to pay the required temple tax, ordinary Roman currency wasn't accepted because of the pagan imagery stamped upon the coinage. No, only temple money was acceptable. And in order to get that, people had to go over to the money changers and get their money changed over at an exchange rate that was less than favorable. And last but certainly not least, the area of the temple where much of this was occurring was the place known as the Court of the Gentiles, an area of the temple that was set aside for non-Jews to come and seek God, to find God, to worship God. And yet the religious authorities had turned it into a smelly barnyard, a marketplace, not only making a mockery of the Gentiles, but making a mockery of God's holy commission to the Jews to be a light for all nations. And that's why Jesus said, "My house is to be a house of prayer for all nations, but you have turned it into a den of robbers."